Life doesn't announce its turning points. They arrive subtly, without ceremony. One day you're laughing over coffee with old friends, and the next, that same laughter feels hollow. Not because it's fake, but because something in you has shifted. What once felt like connection now feels like noise. This isn't loneliness. It's clarity. The truth is, friendship in our 20s and 30s is often rooted in motion. Careers, raising children, chasing dreams, managing crises. We gather people like pebbles in a river, some smooth, some sharp, but all swept along in the same current. By 70, however, the river slows, and we are left holding those pebbles. The question becomes, do they still belong in my life? For many people entering their 70s, the answer is not bitter. It's peaceful. No, they don't. This isn't a call to isolation. It's an invitation to reevaluate, to ask, what is friendship now? What does companionship mean when we are no longer proving ourselves, building legacies, or chasing approval? The answers can be surprising and liberating. Before dive in it, please subscribe to the Healing Wisdom if you want to be healthy, and don't forget to hit the bell icon so you never miss a new update. Let's explore 6 signs, stories, and realizations that reveal why you don't need friends after 70, and why that might be the greatest freedom of your life. Sign number 1, the gift of saying no. Martin had always been the social glue, the man who remembered birthdays, who organized Sunday barbecues, who kept the group chat alive. But at 72, he started to feel a shift. It wasn't sadness. It was weariness. Conversations started to feel recycled. He noticed how much effort it took to stay interested. It wasn't just the others, it was him too. One afternoon, Martin sat at a familiar cafe with 2 longtime friends. They talked about their knees, their cholesterol, their grandkids. The same script as the week before. Martin nodded politely, but a voice in his head whispered, "You don't have to do this anymore." That evening, Martin made a quiet decision. No more out of obligation. He began declining invitations. Not rudely, just honestly. He reclaimed his time. At first there was guilt, but then came peace. Long walks, books he had put off for years, moments of real silence. For the first time in decades, Martin was alone, and not lonely. When you turn 70, your time becomes sacred. You realize that energy is a limited currency. Saying no is not withdrawal, it's self-respect. Sign number 2, the friendship audit. Take a moment, picture your current friendships. Now ask, do they nourish me or drain me? Are they rooted in mutual growth or just shared history? Do I feel seen or simply remembered? It's common to carry friendships long past their expiration date. We do it out of loyalty, tradition, or fear. But a friend from 1972 may not be aligned with the person you are in 2025, and that's okay. At 70, the fear of being alone begins to dissolve. Perhaps a partner, colleagues, you've sat with grief, you've made peace with solitude, and that courage gives you clarity. You start to recognize the difference between presence and performance. Letting go doesn't mean cutting ties, it means redefining them. Maybe that old friend becomes a holiday card instead of a weekly call. Maybe the lunch group turns into an occasional check-in. It's not about shutting doors, it's about choosing which ones you still want to walk through. Sign number 3, rediscovering inner companionship. Eleanor had always been surrounded. 3 grown children, 7 grandchildren, a rotating door of visits, calls, and family group chats. Yet at 76, she realized something haunting. She didn't really know who she was when the house was quiet. So she did something radical. She booked a cabin in the mountains, alone, for a week. No agenda, no visitors, just her journal, and a stack of books. The first day she panicked. By the 3rd, she began to breathe. By the 7th, she had remembered something she hadn't felt since childhood: peace. Eleanor came back transformed. She no longer chased conversation. She began spending 1 day a week completely alone. Her children worried she was isolating. She reassured them, "I'm not pulling away, I'm pulling inward." At 70 plus, solitude becomes sacred. It's not about distancing from others, it's about returning to yourself. Sign number 4, the myth of social obligation. Western society idealizes busyness. Being alone is often painted as failure. But across cultures, in Japan, in India, in indigenous traditions. Elders are revered not for their social calendars, but for their wisdom, their stillness, their inward gaze. Modern aging has become performative. You're told to stay active, keep networking, join clubs. But what if you're simply tired of talking? What if stillness is your medicine? There is no virtue in forced connection. You don't owe your time to anyone. Friendship is not a moral duty, it's a mutual offering. Sign number 5. The most important companionship comes from within. We live in a world that teaches us early on that happiness is found in being surrounded by people, by laughter, by invitations. We're taught to fear loneliness, to equate being alone with being forgotten. But the truth, one that often only reveals itself later in life, is that the most rewarding companionship you will ever experience is the one you build with yourself. Let me tell you about Eleanor. At 76, she was still as lively as ever. Her calendar was full, just like Martin's had once been. She went out with friends, called her old classmates, checked in with distant cousins. Yet most nights, she came home feeling strangely empty. The conversations felt forced. The meetups revolved around gossip or rehashing the past. Somewhere deep down, Eleanor felt like she wasn't truly seen. She was just playing a role, keeping up the rhythm everyone expected of her. Then, one rainy weekend, every plan got canceled. For the first time in ages, she had 2 full days alone. At first, she panicked. What would she do without her usual calls and catch-ups? But something unexpected happened. She pulled out a book she had been meaning to read for years. She made herself a warm cup of tea and sat by the window listening to the rain. She wrote in her old journal. She watched a documentary. And when Sunday night came, she realized something. This was the most peaceful she had felt in a long, long time. Eleanor began to understand that solitude is not a punishment. It's an invitation to befriend yourself. When you're alone, you don't have to explain yourself, perform, or pretend. You can simply be. And in that stillness, you discover truths you had long forgotten. You realize you are enough. You realize that peace is not something others can give you. It's something you find when the world quiets down. And here's the beautiful paradox. The more you enjoy your own company, the more authentic connections you begin to attract. Not the kind that drain you, but the kind that fit effortlessly into your life. People who meet you where you are, who don't expect anything more than your presence. So if you're feeling like your relationships are more work than joy, maybe it's time to look inward. Maybe the best company you'll ever have has been sitting quietly inside you all along. Sign number 6. Letting go opens the door to a more fulfilled life. Letting go. 2 small words, but they hold so much power, especially in our later years. At 30, letting go feels like loss. At 50, it feels like fear, but at 70 and beyond, it feels like freedom. So many of us hold on to friendships, not because they still bring joy, but because they're familiar. We've known someone for decades, so we feel obligated to keep them close, even when the connection has faded. We go to lunches we don't enjoy, answer calls out of guilt, keep up traditions we no longer find meaningful. But what if you didn't have to? James, now 79, used to believe that being socially busy was the secret to staying young. So he kept up with everyone, former co-workers, neighbors, childhood friends. But over time, the calls became repetitive, the conversations shallow. He began to notice how tired he felt after each interaction. That's when he realized he wasn't living, he was performing. So James stopped. He stopped forcing connections and started living for himself. He took long walks, visited local museums, started painting again. He joined a hiking group, not to expand his social circle, but to enjoy nature. Ironically, that's where he met a small group of people who shared his values. Genuine connection, quiet conversation, meaningful presence. Letting go didn't isolate him. It brought him closer to the life he truly wanted. When you let go, you make space. Space for silence, space for creativity, space for new, unexpected joys. And you begin to notice things you never had time for before. The sound of birds in the morning, the taste of your favorite meal, the calm of your evening routine. You start choosing your life, rather than just reacting to it. And here's the truth. Fulfillment doesn't come from maintaining every friendship. It comes from living in alignment with who you've become. Now that we've journeyed through these stories and reflections, take a moment and ask yourself, what kind of life do I truly want in this chapter? This isn't about cutting people off. It's about choosing peace. about listening to what your heart needs now, not what it used to need, not what others expect. It's about understanding that friendships built on obligation do not bring joy, but those built on mutual respect, ease, and presence do. Maybe you're just beginning to let go. Maybe you've already made space for yourself. Or maybe you're still unsure, and that's okay. What's important is to remember this. You've earned the right to live fully, gently, and freely. You don't owe your time, energy, or peace to anyone who doesn't honor it. So if this video resonated with you, please comment number 6 below to let us know you're still here. Tell us one insight you're taking away. Your words remind us why we do this: to connect, to reflect, and to grow together. If you haven't already, subscribe to our channel Healing Wisdom and turn on the bell icon so you never miss videos that speak to your heart and spirit. We're honored to walk this path with you.